I would challenge really any small business owner to sit back and say, okay, if this were to happen, can I stomach it financially? And I'm willing to bet that about 99% of them would say no.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Shift. Greg, it is great to have you here today. For everyone listening, I'm joined by Greg Pfleider from Accelerate to Compliance. Greg has been instrumental in helping organizations tackle one of the most complex challenges today, which is balancing cybersecurity, compliance, and data privacy while staying agile and competitive. His expertise lies in guiding businesses through regulations and frameworks with practical strategies that help them secure and be audit ready. His skill is working with businesses to establish a culture of security. And before we dive in, for the new listeners today, what we do is we interview the thought leaders of the technology and cybersecurity industry on this show, where we get to work with owners, founders, and C-suite people, where we walk through the navigational transformation of the landscape of where we are today and where we're going into the future. So if you're new here, buckle up because we're about to have a great time talking for the next 30 to 40 minutes about all of these great things that I just mentioned. So Greg, totally happy to have you on the show. If you wouldn't mind, just let us know where you're calling in from and start off with a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Darren. It's a pleasure to be here. Welcome, everybody. My name is Greg Pfleider. I am the CEO of Accelerate to Compliance. I am calling in from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we are bearing down the throat of Old Man Winter as we go into Q4. So we're experiencing our last Indian summer, I guess they call it, with some warm weather, but snow and cold weather obviously on the horizon, which can be tough for a guy like myself who doesn't have a whole lot of insulation on the top of his head.
Well, self-awareness is definitely part of it, but what is the weather usually like there?
It's great. Minnesota is great for about 7.5 months. It's a beautiful place to live. And then we go through the grind of winter. And I right now, fall in the upper Midwest is absolutely gorgeous. It's my favorite time of year with the crisp air and the leaves falling. But we're consistently reminded that colder weather is upon us. So a lot of people are starting to batten down the hatches. I see a lot of sprinkler systems being emptied out, and so yeah, we're staring down the barrel of Old Man Winter. But if you're a true Minnesotan, it's nothing that you're not used to, unfortunately.
Oh, it makes sense, especially being up north like that. But it's good you get the snow. Like the people that don't have snow wish they had snow, and people that have snow wish they were in warmer areas. So it's funny how that works.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right. Well, Greg, can you share a little bit about your role at Accelerate to Compliance? You mentioned your current title, but how does that connect to the company's larger mission?
Well, as the CEO, obviously, there's a number of different things that we need to be cognizant of. First and foremost, where have our clients and our prospective clients been on their information security journey? Where are they now? And where is the industry going? So we have to make sure that we have an understanding of our clients' information security posture. And sometimes that does include compliance. What's that current status? What are they hoping to achieve, and where are they hoping to go? Obviously, maintaining consistency with current rules, regs, and so forth. What we're seeing in the space with cybersecurity is really everyone about 4 or 5 years ago seemed to be more concerned with regulatory consequences when it came to breaches. That paradigm has greatly shifted. Certainly, the regulators are going to be knocking at your door when there's a breach, but there's become a greater problem, which is civil penalties and civil suits. A matter of fact, there was a DMS that was Motility that specializes in dealer management systems for primarily RV dealers, and they got hit, and 766,000 records were exposed. And when the notice came out, there was also notice that a very large class action lawsuit law firm, civil litigator, was coming into play as well. So when these breaches happen and information security is compromised, you have regulatory issues, and you also have civil issues. So as the CEO, it's incumbent upon me to make sure that we're addressing what all these expectations are from a regulatory and civil perspective. Consumers do expect their consumer private data to be secured. And it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our clients understand what that journey entails and that we hold their hands when we go along the journey. I mean, every time we talk with a client, the analogy I use is if we got into a rowboat and you're the only one rowing, we're just going to go in circles. If I'm the only one rowing, we're just going to go in circles. But if we're rowing together, we'll go to the destination that you desire.
That's a good analogy. When you speak about that industry trend and that it has shifted, what how do you think that affects cybersecurity businesses' approaches to making them secure?
Well, I mean, the nefarious actors are only getting smarter and more agile. The proliferation of AI is also a proliferation of more methodologies with which nefarious actors can do harmful things to businesses. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, information is their currency. They don't care where they get it. It doesn't matter to them. They just want to get an abundance of it. If they get, piece parts from smaller businesses, but that adds up to a larger total, that's fine. But information is their currency. And when I say information, I mean personal data, consumer private data. And obviously with the breach of that DMS last month, 766,000 records exposed. That means you've got 766,000 identifiable credentials that are now sitting out in nefarious places like the dark web. And we do dark web scans for our clients all the time. And it's utterly amazing to us how many times we see a business and their employees have username and credentials sitting out in the dark web. That's just leaving an RSVP for the bad actors to come in and be invited and RSVP to your party. They're not hacking you. If you have information that's sitting readily available out on the dark web and you're not taking the necessary steps in order to contain that, no one's hacking you. You're leaving evites right at your front door. They're just RSVPing. That's it.
So give us some examples of what you see as the most common mistakes companies are doing.
Ignoring it, ignoring it. Businesses, they may say, I'm a smaller business. No one's after my information, and they need to keenly understand that you may be the gateway to something larger. Access is everything. Access to information is everything. Information is the currency. So accessibility is paramount. If the nefarious actor, the bad players want to go through a smaller business to a larger entity, they will do it. You may remember the Target breach way back in 2012. That happened through an HVAC supplier. Just were able to connect into their systems through an HVAC supplier. So providing avenues to greater trophies of information, small businesses play a big part in that. And the other thing that businesses need to understand is consumers are getting tiresome of this. When breaches occur, I'm sure most people, when AT&T was breached, if you're an AT&T customer, I'm guessing that your phishing emails went up exponentially in the forthcoming weeks. Same thing happens with all these breaches. So as a result, when the breaches transpire, we have more consumer victims, and the consumers are fighting back, and we're seeing that with the proliferation of these civil suits, like I've said earlier on the podcast. So the biggest thing is no one's insulated from this. But what you can do to help protect yourself and your business is to show individuals, consumers, businesses that you associate with that you are taking the necessary steps to secure the consumer private data and the business data that you hold.
So when it comes to securing that data, let's talk about, the mistakes. Like you mentioned that they are ignoring it, but what are they actually doing that's making them vulnerable for the threats to RSVP to their information?
Well, I mean, neglect is obviously a big piece. I mean, if you're neglecting building a security or a culture of security in your business, you're more than likely to get breached. So the most important thing for a business is really to understand. You asked about weaknesses. Employees are the biggest and weakest link, because a lot of employees. Give you an example. Say AT&T was breached. A lot of employees at a business may be AT&T customers. So if they're utilizing the same credentials for their AT&T account that they would be using for, say, to log into their business, guess what? Now their business has become susceptible to risk. So when you look at businesses and what their biggest concerns are, it's all across the board. I mean, when we go in and we conduct an assessment of a business and where they currently stand from an information security perspective, the results it's a very, very wide range. More often than not, once we conduct the assessment, we realize that most of our clients are really just beginning this journey. It's very, very rare that we come across a client when we do an assessment to understand where they are in this journey that they're ready to go. They're buttoned up, they've got everything sewed up and ready. That's a rarity. Businesses have to start taking this seriously, or they're just simply not going to be around. I mean, when you see, look at the trends of breaches. I mean, it used to be 10, 15 years ago, it was the large banks, it was the big businesses, and everybody felt, well, they're only going after that. That's not the case. We're seeing breaches all over the place. I mean, now we're even seeing breaches occur at the nonprofit level. Donor data is important. Donor data to a nefarious player is abundantly important. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that nonprofits were going to be a threat or under threat, but they are, and it's very, very sad to see that. We want to help any and all businesses achieve a culture of security, understanding what the parameters are to achieve that and the steps they have to take to effectuate it. And as I said earlier in the podcast, the most important thing I think businesses need to realize is we're not just going to bring you into our business and then send you out to pasture and wish you good luck. As I said, it's a journey. We have to walk together. And education and understanding the parameters of data privacy, compliance, and cybersecurity is abundantly imperative and important.
When it comes to your approach, how are these trends impacting how your business is growing?
Trends in as far as breach occurrences and those trends.
Correct. So the shift that we spoke about, it's focusing much more on the smaller businesses now. Obviously, your company is adjusting in order to help, we'll call it small to medium-sized businesses compared to the banks and conglomerates. So,
Mhm.
what is your company's strategy to handle that type of attack so that way your company can grow?
Well, really, it's adjusting to the expectations of our clients. I mean, number one thing for us is simplicity. So, I think we've talked about this before, but none of our clients got into the role that they are in because they have a passion for information security. Take a car dealer, for instance, a power sports dealer. Power sports dealer is a lifestyle. RV dealers are a lifestyle. They sell those products and services because it's something they have a passion for. So now that we have this greater growth of cyber intrusions, breach occurrences, and loss of data, now that that's starting to happen, what's important to realize is as we go forward, technologies are changing. So we have to be cognizant of, okay, to maintain this simplistic approach, what are some of the technologies that we can deploy within our own solution to greater effectuate simplicity? Things like that are a simpler way to create policies and procedures. So businesses can quickly create a policy and procedure and have it generated, but at the same time, they have to understand it. So you have this balancing act between expeditious information security and building a culture thereof, as well as understanding and making sure the client understands, why are you doing this? This is why you're doing this. This is why this is important. Education is a big piece, not just information security awareness training for a business, but education for the business itself in understanding what their risks are and some of the steps they can do to mitigate those risks. So it's really a balancing act. And now that we have, the growth of AI, it's making the nefarious actors smarter. So we have to be smarter. So some of the tools and things that we have to deploy as it relates to automation and AI have to be consistent with the threats that we see every day.
And that was a perfect segue because that was going to be the next question. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, obviously that speeds everything up, but how do people ethically use AI to make their companies more secure?
Well, I hear a lot of, businesses say, well, I'll just ask AI to draft some policies and procedures. Okay, well, yeah, you could certainly do that. We already have the policies and procedures readily available, ready to go. But the most important thing they have to realize is you have to understand them. Give you an example. If a company has a breach, if you don't understand what your incident response plan is, you've got a bigger issue. A business has to understand, if everything goes down, how do we transact? How is it that we can continue to operate as a business? And even more importantly, if something is to happen at our own business, what can we do to help mitigate that? AI is obviously not going away. It's been very interesting to see how it's being utilized. I actually read an article the other day that was talking about the proliferation in the legal sector. We're going to see it everywhere. So we have to adapt to it. But AI is becoming a problem for a lot of our clients because it's only making the bad players look smarter. They're utilizing AI technologies to impersonate other executives, to impersonate other people at the business, to try to bring more of a genuine sense of a real email to other people within a business. So technology also cultivates bad players to do more creative things. So we have to be effective in response to that. Absolutely. And help our clients with it. I mean, we send out blog posts and newsletters to our clients trying to explain to them, many of them news items, is why does this impact you? For instance, like the example I brought up before, why in the world are we sending a blog post to a power sports dealer regarding the AT&T breach? Well, I just told you what that relation is and why it's important. And the same thing when we do like a dark web scan for a business. Sometimes we'll come across the rarity where we don't see a lot of credentials out there. But one business had over in just the last 30 days had over 1,500 username and credentials that were sitting out on the dark web. Over 1,500.
That's a
Pretty
lot.
scary. That's a lot. That's a lot. And
So
that same business was wondering, should I be doing this? I mean, should I be building an information security program? The answer is effectively absolutely. You're wide open. Um, and businesses need to see that. But we are seeing somewhat of a paradigm shift. It was interesting. I was on with a tax advisory firm earlier this week, and they were talking about the transition from, the older guard that had been bought out to the new guard. And the new guard and the new management teams that are coming into many of these businesses do understand the saliency of what we're talking about, or better yet, have a better understanding of the saliency. Um, People that have been in their business for a long time, this is very difficult for them to understand, and I sympathize with them. I do because it's a whole new paradigm that's very difficult to get their arms around. But some of the newer management teams that are coming in, newer owners, definitely have a greater awareness.
it's great detail. I appreciate that. So let's focus on the current state now of Accelerate to Compliance. What has been working really well for the company?
What's been working really well is we started off as a compliance company. Our primary focus was the FTC safeguards rule, which has been around since 2003, but was enhanced in 2018, 21, and 23. And as a result, there was a greater notice amongst many businesses that were subject to this regulation to follow through with the basic blocking and tackling parameters to establish a culture of security at their business. So a number of our clients that were subject to this rule are dealers, automotive, power sport, RV, marine, outdoor power equipment, heavy machinery, golf car. But that has since grown for us. We're moving into other spaces. We're helping foundations and the grantees that they support establish a culture of security. We're working with tax advisory firms. We're working with law firms. So it lends to what I just said earlier, Darren. There's this greater understanding of the management teams that are now coming in that have a better understanding of why this is important. So for us as Accelerate to Compliance, we've gone from a compliance company to helping businesses establish a culture of security through data privacy, information security, and privacy. And all of those things for us, it's really building the awareness and really helping our clients understand that there is an easy way to do this. No one likes to talk about compliance. And sometimes security can even be a word that scares people. We take all the scarcity out of it. We make it simple. If you go to our website, for instance, it's clean lines, clean to understand, not a lot of heavy Times New Roman font that you have to read hours through. Same thing goes with our solution. Simple, easy to understand, so people can get back to doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is operating their business.
And Greg, that is a great breadth of different industries and issues that you're focusing down on. So when you speak about transitioning from those power sports into like tax consulting, was that just from like a warm referral, or how did you actually end up targeting those specific niches after the power sports one?
Outside of dealers, we actually were contacted by a number of people in these industries that had shown some concern on the consumer private data that they held and whether or not they were doing the proper steps to properly secure it. We're also seeing growth in the MSP space. MSPs are not MSSPs. They don't have the security components. So our A to Safe Hub provides them a bridge to get to that part, enables them to go from just doing servers and things of that nature to actually effectuating information security protocols utilizing our system. But businesses have really come to us. I'm actually going to be speaking at a conference next week in New Jersey, which is going to be predominantly attended by a number of CISOs and CTOs of foundations, where we're going to be talking about some of the important things they need to be cognizant of in their space. But even more importantly, I really want to hear what their primary concerns are. Establishing a dialogue of concern and a dialogue of solution for our clients is really how we operate.
Gotcha. So on the flip side, what has been the most frustrating?
There's obviously in any type of business, there's a lot of risks. So, with traditionally our business being in dealers are being greatly impacted by tariffs right now. As well as, power sports dealers, RV dealers, their parts and accessories usually are manufactured overseas. So the dealers are definitely facing some headwinds. There were some favorable numbers that came out in regards to automotive sales, but a lot of that was due to a bump in consumers taking advantage of the EV tax credit, which has now expired. We expect most of the dealers in the dealer space, we do expect some slight growth, but we do think there's going to be some sluggishness in the near term. So obviously that's some headwinds we face in that market vertical. But in some of our other market verticals, really, as I said, that the interest in what it is that we do and how we can help them from cost effectively, by the way, is really resonating well with a lot of our clients and prospective clients. Um, you know, I think the other thing that's a challenge for us is artificial intelligence. How much do you bet on AI? A lot of companies will say they have AI, but they don't. They just have some sort of automated wizard, which isn't technically AI. We want to make sure that we're utilizing solutions that are best for our clients. We're not interested in deploying technologies that make things more cumbersome for our clients just because it's the new fad. And I'm not suggesting that AI is a fad at all. I'm not suggesting that at all because it's not. It's here to stay. But it's important that our clients understand what it is that we do and why we do it for them, rather than just giving them a solution. Understand what it is they're purchasing.
Got it. So are there any specific metrics that Accelerate to Compliance is focused on improving?
My number one thing is client relations. We don't ever want to be labeled as a company that call us if you have an issue. And what I mean by that is that we don't want to be reactionary. We want to be proactive with our clients. And so some of the things that we do internally is we look at the interactivity of our clients with our solution. And if one of our clients hasn't been interacting with it for a quarter or two, we will reach out. Are you having questions? Is there something that has you stumped? Is the individual that was administering this information security program, are they no longer there? We take a proactive approach with our clients and their security. And I think that's the primary difference between us and some of the other businesses out there. We also want to make sure that our clients have a relationship, not just with us, but with their customer client advocate. Every one of our clients has the same customer client advocate assigned to them. Not the same person, but they deal with the same person. We want them to have a relationship. We want them to have a sense of trust so they can ask questions. They can feel more open about where they are through this information security journey. We want to take the intimidative factors out and provide more clarity and simplicity towards a solution in that place.
Gotcha. So you mentioned AI a couple of times, and I think that you guys taking a personal approach compared to implementing too much technology. a phrase that I've heard before is there's a lot of people running around with a hammer trying to find a nail to implement AI or overly complex technologies. But since
Right.
you're saying that AI is here to stay, which I agree with, what does that look like in the next year? A year from now, what is the threat landscape looking like and how are we staying secure?
The threat landscape is going to get more complicated. It's going to get a lot more creative and a lot more scary. What just the level of perfection that these bad actors have developed as a means of gathering this information from businesses who just don't have the technical administrative safeguards in place. It's only going to get scarier. How scary, I think, is has yet to be determined. But I do believe that we're seeing just, for instance, in automotive, there were over 730 breach occurrences over the last 2 years, just in the automotive vertical. You don't see a lot of that in the headlines, but that's just one vertical. We're seeing it happen really at every level in the verticals that we serve, and we would expect that to continue, which is why we believe it's so abundantly important for businesses to be able to show that they're taking all the necessary steps to secure the data that they hold. That is the most important piece, proving that you are taking the steps to secure that data. Ignorance is no longer a solution, and it's no longer an answer. The regulatory bodies are sick of tired of hearing it, and now the ambulance chasing attorneys are there to confirm it. If businesses don't start taking this seriously, if they don't start taking it seriously, then they probably should start seriously considering what's my backup plan when this thing goes down, because that's exactly what happens. So consumers are tired of it. I mean, 84% of consumers have said they're not likely to buy a product or service from a business that's been breached. Well, since we don't have a solution out there that can guarantee and mitigate every breach occurrence that's out there, what's the next step? What's the next solution? The next solution is doing everything you can from a fundamental perspective to prove to the prospective and current customers that you have that you are doing everything you can to secure their data. Does
And
that make sense,
for
Darren?
it does to me, but what I was going to say is for people that are listening to this and maybe business owners of themselves that don't have the capital to invest in companies, what are like one or two suggestions that you can give them that if they're just starting out knowing nothing, these are the two lowest hanging fruit that will provide the most value?
Well, they can start utilizing our service for, about $150 a month. I mean, they don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars with us a month. Our Ada Safe Hub provides them an ability to effectuate an information security program. So to answer your question directly, the price points that we offer our services should not negate any business from saying this is not something we should be applying. It should not be a budgetary concern, and it isn't. But what's even more important to understand is what's the issue if I don't? If I don't make the investment in this, what is the potential fallout? Same thing applies here. I can't tell you how, if I were a business, if I were, I guess just for example's sake, an owner of a dealership, and we sold cars, the number one thing that I would do first and foremost is to make sure that my business is secure, because once a breach transpires, it just lays a wake in its place. And another thing a lot of businesses don't consider is, forget about regulatory fines for a minute. Even forget about some of the civil lawsuits and potential civil penalties that can come. Let's think about your time as a dealer owner, a general manager, head of F&I and at a dealership. If there's a breach, imagine the amount of time that you are going to spend addressing that issue. That takes away from running the business day to day. So the expenses that are associated with the breach, yes, they're regulatory, yes, they're civil, but the opportunity cost of having your employees address the breach as opposed to addressing the day-to-day operations of the business can be significant. Significant issues, significant problems. It can cause disruption in business. It can cause employee turnover. It can cause a lot of different things. And when that snowball starts to go down the hill and get bigger, it can get difficult to stop.
Thank you for those details for the listeners. I hope that gets you off to a good start. Free plug for you, but definitely check out their website at Accelerate to Compliance, and that's to the number, not TO. But staying in that forward mindset, Greg, what does your company's goals of Accelerate to Compliance look like in the next 12 months? What are you looking to achieve?
We want to be able to effectively help any business of any market vertical address information security, data privacy, and cybersecurity concerns through the utilization of our ADA Safe Hub. And our ADA Safe Hub enables businesses to administer a wide variety of functions from all three of those facets that I just discussed earlier. And our
Mhm.
goal is to make that solution simpler by the day. Everything that we do with the system, we do in conjunction with speaking with our clients. We want to know where our clients' pain points are, where they need to have simplicity, where they need to have just a more fluid experience. So it's constantly trying to simplify, but yet perfect, simplify, but yet perfect. So for us, it's any business that has, business data, consumer private data that is looking to set up a better boundary of insulation revolving around information security, data privacy, and cybersecurity. We are exactly the company that you want to call.
Got it. And are you able to drill down onto that a little bit more? So you talk about handling everybody, which is the dream of every company, but what does that look like from a metric standpoint of, a year from now you're looking at it? What does your company have to be doing, whether it's from a revenue perspective, customer perspective, but how do you know that you actually succeeded 12 months from now to hit what you just said?
Well, we're seeing it already. We're seeing interest in other market verticals that we talked about earlier. They're reaching out to us. I've had a number of conversations just in recent days with law firms, tax advisory firms, money managers, because the breach occurrences are literally daily. I mean, you open up the headlines, it's every single day. So going forward, our focuses are going to be really on, accounting firms, tax advisory firms, law firms, foundations. We desperately want to help foundations. A lot of the grantees that they support hold some pretty serious data, donor data, information data based upon what it is that specific nonprofit is doing. We want to make sure they're secure as well. And the foundations have now expressed a concern in that. So it's working pari passu with the growth of breaches. We want to make sure we come with growth of solutions. And for us in that metric, it's going to be combined with the market verticals I've talked about, coupled with the market verticals we currently serve. But every one of those market verticals, I want them to feel and understand that there is a simple way to do it. You'll be able to build a relationship with a customer client advocate at our business, which provides a level of comfort. I mean, that's all we want as business owners is a level of comfort in what I'm doing and a level of understanding what I'm doing. So it's our intention going forward. We will continue to make technological investments into our solution. We're not going to make investments just to make an investment to say that we've done it. If we don't feel it benefits our clients and our clients doesn't feel it benefits them, we're not going to do it. Everything that we do is client driven. So we want to interact with our clients consistently on a daily basis and utilize what we learn to become better. And that's really our intention. I think, for us, when I look at the verticals that we now serve, I think we're going to see growth in all of them. But really, it's going to be an understand which one of those market verticals is willing to adapt sooner. And I think all three of them right now are really expressing that concern.
And I think this is a cool area to drill down on because one of the most common things I hear in cybersecurity is that people need it, but they, to your point, are ignorant about it or it's not important because for smaller companies, they're just trying to get food on the table, right? They're just
Right.
trying to make money. So your company has obviously overcome that to where you're actually have potential leads or customers reaching out to you because of the brand that you've built. So for other people in cybersecurity or ones that are building their business, what recommendations do you have for them in regards to creating that, you can call it hype or just loyalty of people wanting to come to their business based on the brands that has been developed by yours?
Um, my advice to any business owner out there at this point, and believe me, I understand as a business owner myself. I mean, it's a balancing act, and there's a lot of businesses now that, they're under regulatory threats, they're under political risk, they're facing headwinds and tariffs. They're experiencing a lot of different headwinds that we want to be keenly aware of and to see what we can do with our solution to further help them. Um, I think for businesses going forward, securing their data has to be paramount. And the reason I say that is because it's happening so fast and so quickly that businesses could be there today, gone tomorrow, for the reasons I just talked about earlier: regulatory risk, legal risk, and then the opportunity cost risk are absolutely phenomenal in figures. And I don't think I would challenge really any small business owner to sit back and say, okay, if this were to happen, can I stomach it financially? And I'm willing to bet that about 99% of them would say no if they were honest with themselves. And the reason I can say that confidently, Darren, is the numbers could be infinite. It depends on how many records you lost. I mean, this breach just occurred, 766,000 victims. That's a big class action suit. That takes time. Time is money. Legal costs is money. So the problem, I guess what I'm trying to say, Darren, is make sure that they understand the metrics of information security and what it takes to effectuate it. But even more importantly, what's going to happen to my business if I don't? If I don't take this seriously, what could potentially happen to my business? And that's where it gets very scary.
That's good insight, Greg. I appreciate you opening up and sharing about that. So, one last question for you is when you look at your own business, successful, working well, if you had a magic wand to just fix one thing, whether it's in the operations or the scaling or client challenges, what is that one thing?
That's a great question. Um, and I think I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this, but for us, really, we have to keep we have to keep our clients educated. But the biggest challenge that I see is you don't want to overindulge. They don't want to see emails from us every 5 minutes, and I don't blame them. But balancing that gap of understanding the saliency of what we're talking about. Everybody knows about cybersecurity, everybody knows it's important, but why is it important? Why, how, and why could this impact my business? What could be the ultimate fallout? But bridging that, keeping them informed and understanding why this is important without, over inundating them, I think is a balancing act that we need to work at. Um, but it's going forward, it's going to be balancing technology with the threat. And whether it's technology or administrative practice, policy and procedure. Every business has to get better at perfecting their policies and procedures. They have to get better at effectuating security. If they're not going to take it seriously, then what that tells us, they're willing to be a headliner, and we don't want any of our clients to be a headliner. And if a breach occurs with one of our clients, we're going to make sure that they're properly armed to address it.
That's pretty creative. I've always heard headliners on the good side of it, but you are correct. In this situation, you do not want to be a headliner. So,
No, no,
first
this
time I've
is
heard
not
that
where you want to
said.
gain popularity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So Greg, do you have any final words for our audience that you'd like to leave them with?
Final words is don't be intimidated by information security. Don't be intimidated by cybersecurity. There are simple solutions. There are solutions that you can effectuate cost effectively, simply, so you can get back to doing what it is that you do best. But ignorance and ignoring the factors and the stories that we've talked about here today is not a solution. And it is more or less putting your business in peril. And I would hate, there's a lot of, phenomenal businesses out there, large and small. But for the small, medium-sized companies out there and to the CEOs that may be listening, start taking this seriously yesterday.
Sounds good, Greg. Again, thank you so much for all of your time today on the digital shift. I
Well,
really
thank you, Darren. I
appreciate.
appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been very insightful, especially with all the different areas that we've gone from the compliance, cybersecurity, not being ignorant, really taking it seriously. And I also appreciate how you're keeping your costs low for businesses to be able to stay ahead of this, evolving
Mhm.
landscape It's all incredibly valuable. So, to our listeners, as always, thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Greg and his company, Accelerate to Compliance, head on over to accelerate2compliance.com, and that is the number two for Accelerate to Compliance. Again, thank you to everyone that tunes in, and don't forget to subscribe to The Digital Shift. You can check out the links in the descriptions below to find Greg's LinkedIn and his website as well. So that way you don't miss future episodes and can connect with him as well. So, Greg, again, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Darren, it's been a pleasure as well. I really, really enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Sounds good, Greg.
Thanks, Darren.
Hey there, it's Darren from The Digital Shift. I wanted to take a moment to thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check out the links in the description to learn even more information of everything we went over today. But if you enjoyed this podcast, then you are absolutely going to love this one. And if you're looking to look deeper into the technology that we go over in these videos, then go ahead and check out this one here. Regardless of which one you pick, you're going to walk away with something new. As always, I'll talk to you in the next one, and keep being awesome.